I can't not sing it as I get out of it. Like,
get you going.
Hey, everybody out there. Thank you again for tuning into another Small Sports Podcast. Normally, this is where we would say that we're getting into stories, we're getting into fantasy stuff, we're getting into betting. But where we're going into week 6 in the bye week, we've decided to do a special for you this week. It's going to be all things fantasy. We will bring out our spreads and our picks for you later on, but this segment alone, bye week 6, the bye special for the boys. We're going to be making sure that we get into all fantasy. I am Luke, and of course you can see Dave over there next to me. We are unfortunately Drake free this week. He is on vacation out visiting some family, so Drake, enjoy your time out there. Yeah, Dave, week 5 was pretty dramatic, but week 6, we're on to the bye weeks. What are you thinking?
Man, bye weeks are... it's when things get real.
Tricky.
But you're like, and sadly, like in a couple leagues, I own some Falcons, I own some Jets, and it's just like, man, not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob.
Yeah, but no, this is where things get real. You're starting to feel the pressure. You know, are you 3-2? Are you 4-1? Are you 1-4? I can tell you this out there: if you are playing fantasy and you're 1-4 or you're 0-5, even, don't give up, because this is when a lot of people just start to sail through. They think they've got it going. Injuries are going to happen. They're not going to work the waiver wire the way you're going to after listening to us, and you have a really good chance to bounce back.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I mean, the other side of the coin is if you go into these bye weeks and you start to lose, you start to see yourself further down the totem pole. That's when you can put the tank on, start trading for picks if that's what your leagues do. If you're in dynasty leagues, that's when you can pick up, you know, some younger guys and really aim yourself towards the future. Obviously, as we're going to get into, as you guys can tell, we're going to be talking all things fantasy, but we do still want to do the question of the week.
Right.
So, Dave, let's go.
Well, fantasy related, of course.
Yeah, well, of course.
This week's question of the week is pretty straightforward. It's, what platform do you guys prefer to use? We know people that, ourselves, we play in Sleeper, MFL, Yahoo, ESPN. Those are the 4 that I play in. I think you're in the same 4.
Same.
You're in more leagues than I am this year, but those 4 are the main ones, right?
Yeah.
But there's still some other ones out there too. Like CBS has one. There's probably a bunch that I don't even know about.
The regular NFL.
Yeah, NFL. I know that's tuned up a lot, and they've come a long way. I was never a fan of it back in the day, but I haven't seen its new stuff. So our question to you guys out there: what's your favorite platform for NFL fantasy football? Pretty simple. I
mean, as you guys can probably tell, we've been using Sleeper. We do have 2 leagues for Sleeper. We use it for a lot of our stat projections and that kind of thing as we're preparing for the podcast as well. It seems to be the most streamlined across the board for usage, for, you know, good with your teams, good for chats, good for individual platform chats. You can see the scores, you can see the players and availabilities, and they even have podcasts and stuff on there too. So it's kind of like an all-purpose format, which is really why I seem to prefer it. But yeah, I'd be interested to see what everybody else thinks too.
One of my favorite things about Sleeper personally is, especially if you have it on a tablet or your computer, you can see the 3 segments of what you've got going on. You can see your different leagues on the left-hand side, and you can see the chats that are available for you. In the middle, you can see what you've chosen, you know, league, my team, players, whatever it is. And on the right-hand side, you get really cool stuff too. Trending drops and pickups. You can see all the game scores, which during the day, it's like during game day, it's super, it's quick, it's efficient, it's very accurate.
Yep.
And one of the really underrated things that people don't think about too, it shows you the weather.
Yeah.
I'm big on that.
That's a good point.
If I'm making my bets, overs and unders, like that's a huge deal. Yeah. If it's going to be a rainy, disgusting outdoor game and the over-under's 50-something plus, you're taking the under. Like all of a sudden things got greasy and not great. There's going to be some mistakes made. Boys are going to get sloppy. Balls will get fumbled, drop. It's going to be a low-scoring game. Yeah. Weather can come into a factor.
Very true. Very, very true. So normally, again, you guys would see us jumping into our favorite stories of the week, where we'd be talking about, you know, the game of the week and some different trending topics. We do want to keep it strictly fantasy related, so we will get into our waiver wires from what we were talking about last week for the reflection on, you know, must-owns at that point. But I did want to mention we were kind of right about that Bills and Chiefs game. Sure. That was definitely best game of the week, super fun to watch, and had a lot of fantasy implications and stuff as well. CEH now being on injury, out for this week at the very least. Damien Williams going to be probably a big pickup for a lot of people in leagues too.
Daryl.
Sorry, yes, there's two, right? Daryl, Damien, and Chicago.
D&D Williams.
Yeah, jeez. That's an easy mix-up. You can't blame me on that one.
For certain.
But just quickly to wrap up what we said last week for the stories was the waiver wire must-owns. We had the three of them for wide receiver, tight end, running back. Wide receiver was Khalif Raymond. Unfortunately, that was not a hit. He did not receive a catch. He's a deep threat, and now see if it's done for the year. There is the implication that he could be another good waiver wire pickup if you're still seeing him linger there for these coming weeks. But last week was just not the right week for him. Max Williams, again, nope. Unfortunately, whiffed on that one. We did see Max as well get hurt. He's now on the IR. So now Demetrius Harris is going to be taking that role. And then Jeremy Mcnichols, again, questionable. Probably a good guy to pick up on the waiver if he's still there now, because again, he's a handcuff for Henry all day long, and Henry is a beast, but you could see him get hurt. He's probably not a guy that you're going to end up playing in a flex unless you're in a really deep league or you're really hurting on injuries. Unfortunately, he's probably not that play that you're looking for right now, but it's still definitely worth taking off the waivers.
I will chime in on this one. Mcnichols this week entices me because they're going to be playing the Bills Monday night at home, prime time against, right now the NFL is ranked, number one ranked team in the NFL. They're probably going to be playing some catch up. Last week, they got to kind of, just kind of poop on the Jags, and they got to run the ball all day.
Yeah.
That's why you'll see some of our reflections too. Tannehill didn't quite have the game he would have had. Didn't need to. We get to rely on Derrick Henry. Yep. I think going against the Bills, you're going to see a little bit more of the old comeback, the old dump and dink and dunk, and see how that goes too, right? So Mcnichols could be very good going forward. Luke, I think it's a good wrap up. I think it's time to.
Oh, you want to go strictly. All things fantasy. Yeah. Amped up about this one for sure. Again, we had a lot that we were getting into for fantasy in the last number of weeks. We definitely want to stick with our typical starts, sits, sleepers, that kind of thing that you guys have hopefully come to know and love. But we're going to get into probably a little bit more riffing back and forth on, what the implications are for fantasy in these upcoming games, what the injuries have been. Again, some more waiver wire opportunities that you guys might see coming forward. Really, to start off, though, we should start reflecting on what we did for last week. So again, in our fantasy football segment, which is going to be this entire episode, you are going to get your starts, sits, your sleepers. We will get into all of our spreads and everything for you later on. But reflecting on last week, I had started with the wide receivers. So I said to start Deontay Johnson. That was a big hit. Let's go. That was a good call. Unfortunately, Juju is out hurt, but that only makes it better for Deontay Johnson going forward. He had 17.2 points last week. He was 2 for 2, 72 yards, touchdown as well, 92% of snaps. He's going to be a must-own with Juju being out now and gone for the year.
But Luke, what about Anthony Miller? He's joining the Steelers now, too. Doesn't that hurt Deontay Johnson at all?
Well, seeing as how he's bounced around from place to place, I would really think probably not.
Good answer.
Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool are going to be the guys to own there. James Washington is obviously going to be getting an uptick in usage and stuff as well. Probably Eric Ebron as well. I would assume, everybody who was obviously, a front runner on that team to begin with is now going to get an uptick. But those are the two main guys who are already, doing super well with Juju in the lineup anyway. And then I said to sit Marvin Jones Jr. That was a great call because unfortunately he only had one catch for 5 targets. Great pick here for the sit. Unfortunate, really, because I love MJJ. I think he's a quality wide receiver. He did so well with Lawrence to start off with.
You do like him more than the average guy.
Yeah, I've got him in 2 leagues. And I started him. I told you guys to sit him, but I started him. Yeah, it's also because I was a little weak in depth, but I still believe in him. I still think he's got an opportunity to do well with that offense. It's just that offense isn't doing well. And then you've got the Urban Meyer of it all. So
true.
Who knows what's going on with that organization? Yeah.
So moving on from wide receiver to running back, I told you guys to start running back from the Broncos, Devante Williams. That was a good call. Even in a game, the Broncos they trailed most of it, and they were down. He was well utilized. He squeezed out a nice 11 points. Not too shabby. I did tell you guys to sit Mark Ingram, and again, I nailed on that one. He only had 41 yards. He had 16 attempts on 41 yards. It was not a great day for Mark. Even though honestly, I think the Texans played one of the best games they're probably going to have all year against New England. It wasn't enough to pull out the upset.
Honestly, man, it's that three-headed monster with that team. Having Phillips, having Johnson, having Ingram in there, you never know who's going to hit. And unfortunately, I don't think any of them have a real opportunity to hit with all three of them being there and healthy and wanting to be part of the game. I mean, like we said, Anthony Miller's gone. They really don't have much for wide receivers outside of Cooks, and then they don't have those tight ends to lean on like they did last year. And no QB work is obviously the big thing. So seeing those three running backs, they just kind of eat off each other's plate. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, speaking of eating off plates, Jack Doyle didn't. I chose him. I said you should start him against Baltimore. He didn't even have one full fantasy point. I whiffed on that one. The game was all the Colts. And by all Colts, I mean it was all Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
In like the first 2.5 quarters, until the Ravens scored 22 unanswered and won in overtime.
Oh, that wasn't a nice little jab in there for you, was it?
No, I whipped on that, but it was great to watch the game.
Yeah.
I did tell you to sit Dan Arnold. That wasn't really a hit or a miss. He did exactly what he was expected to do, sitting at 6 points. Which is more than what I thought he was going to do, I suppose. So I suppose I made a mistake there, but I think that Dan actually may be a streamable guy going forward.
Yeah.
I think that Trevor Lawrence and the Jags are going to be trailing most of their games, and he's going to need to sling it to someone. So if you're a Max Williams owner or a Dallas Goedert owner, he might be actually playable going forward too, which is kind of crazy.
It's a guy that you probably want to pick up in fantasy to have there just in case. Good matchup opportunities, filling in for bye weeks like we've been discussing. So could be an opportunity to see there. And I will wrap up what Drake was talking about last week for quarterbacks as well. We said to start Ryan Tannehill. And while the Titans had a good game, Tannehill just did not have a great fantasy game. They got up quick against the Jags. It was kind of a sneaky game for Tannehill because it looked like he did really well, but he really only put out 14 points in the week. It was a run-heavy game for the Titans, and obviously Derrick Henry had a beast game as he normally does. And then when it came down to the sit, we said Joe Burrow. That was kind of a miss as well. Joe Burrow did outdo his projections. He had 23 points in the day. It was a close game against the Packers. I mean, when you see the Bengals and Joe Burrow putting up a close game against the Packers, you got to be impressed.
You see the Bengals right now are ranked in the top 10 power rankings.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about.
I was kind of saying that to the boys in the chat. I was like, really? Like the Bengals in the top 10? And then they strictly pointed out this game, like doing well against the Packers.
It took 5 field goals. 4 missed field goals, and then the 5th one hit from Crosby to end that game.
That was really like gross. like boys, it's your job. Just go out there and do your job. And oh man, when you seen McPherson like hit that little flag,
he thought he killed it.
He hit the flag. He's like, yeah, I got it. That's on the outside, bro.
Come on, man.
Oh, whiff.
Shout out to Randy Moss and the boys. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
All right. Yeah. So let's jump into our sleeper reflections.
Yeah.
Why don't you hit off the quarterback spot again, Luke?
Yeah. So I had the sleeper for quarterback being Matt Ryan. And again, I feel like that one kind of hit. 22 points in the day. Not bad for streaming quarterback that you probably would have ended up picking up off waivers like I did in a league. It was the Jets. So, of course, it's kind of to be expected. That was a bit of a crutch for us, I guess. But honestly, like he finally unleashed. He hit Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts had a huge breakout game. That's exactly what we wanted to see, and that was kind of a mention last week as well. Dave, how did the wide receiver do?
Well, if you would have played, I think he would have been a factor. But we decided to go with Mr. Nick Westbrook-Ikine. He was injured, so he didn't quite get to what we thought he might have done. And I did pick for the tight end. I chose Austin Hooper. Nope. This was Njoku's week, and Njoku found the end zone. We flipped the coin. It landed on tails. I happen to have called heads. And that tight end combo is probably going to be a nightmare going forward. So, yeah. But we did hit on the running back.
True. Running back pick this week was Zack Moss, 11 points. Excellent news for Moss owners. He obviously came in with a really strong passing game with Allen, 55 yards on 3 catches. I mean, you own Moss and Singletary in a couple of leagues, and you've actually been playing them both.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah.
In one of my leagues, I own those two guys. I had Gus Edwards, which I was actually looking forward to. I was like really looking forward to my year. I was like, I actually have a good running back core right now. It turns out now I don't. But I've been starting Singletary and Moss as my two running backs, and they both put up on average 10 points a week. So they're keeping me alive because the Bills are so high flying.
Yeah.
Now, before we jump into this week's start, sits, and sleepers, I want to quickly jump into our story that we didn't really have our stories for this week, but
Sure.
I do want to go over a couple of waiver wire must-owns for the people out there before we go into some of our sleepers and starts, because we kind of scroll through a little quick on those ones.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll do what? I'll do running back and quarterback, and you can do wide receiver, tight end.
Get her done, bud.
Beautiful.
Let's go.
So running back, must own Darrell Williams. We talked about him earlier. You know, Clyde Edwards-Helaire down and out. We're not certain for how long.
Yeah.
But he is an IR, and that means that Darrell gets his shot while CEH deals with his MCL sprain. The Washington football team hasn't been as great on defense as we all expected and hoped for. So this is probably the guy to own. Another guy I would say closely number 2 if you're going to be blowing your waiver wire spot on, or someone who might be still sitting there, is Devante Booker. Obviously with Saquon Barkley out with a pretty crazy ankle situation. That was a balloon on his ankle.
Yeah.
But he seems to be looking like he's going to be coming back a lot sooner.
Yeah.
So I think that Darrell Williams kind of overtakes Booker in terms of priority right now.
For sure.
For the quarterback spot, it's Gino Smith.
Yeah.
Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson out probably week 10 with he messed up his finger pretty bad. He had surgery the day after, from what I read too. But I mean, he's got like Gino Smith has Lockett, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf. That's enough said, right?
Yeah.
Like Wilson is out for multiple weeks. Smith is a serviceable quarterback. He's not great, don't get me wrong, but he's good on a good football team. He's got some awesome weapons to toss it to, and he should get a couple of wins for Seattle going forward. If you're in larger leagues, or you're in 2 quarterback or super flex leagues, he could really change your world around the next few weeks coming.
Yeah. Like if you can jump into the waiver wire, which he absolutely should be in, and grab Gino, and you don't have a plug and play guy, for example, in that super flex, or you're one quarterback short, or you ended up with a quarterback who was injured, then he's a guy that can sustain your weeks for sure, week by week. And again, we're in week 6 now. Russell's maybe back week 10, so you're going to get 3 or 4 weeks out of Gino likely. Even if you're, looking for a bye week cover, you might not necessarily want to spend the whole bank on him, but you give yourself an opportunity and put out a few fab to see if you can find him. If that's the way that yours works, it's worth a shot for sure.
Absolutely.
Continuing on to waiver wire must owns with wide receivers, Quez Watkins. I mean, everything for waivers, I don't know about your guys' leagues, but in all of our leagues, waiver wire's thin at
receiver specifically. Yeah, it is.
In a lot of the deeper leagues or the leagues that you have a big bench in, that's what you're probably seeing the same as us. However, a guy that shows promise is Quez. He's seen a decent amount of targets coming from Jalen Hurts. And I mean, he's really changing the speed of their game, especially where Hurts has the ability to play action run himself or whatever he likes. Quez being able to get out there and get that deep ball is going to be big. If you're hurting for a guy to flex, or you're looking for somebody to cover a bye week or something of that nature, a good matchup against the Bucks. I think he's got an opportunity to get out there and excel, with probably Devante Smith being double covered. Jalen Reagor really not doing a lot this year. Watkins can be that big, deep threat and maybe get you an old Deshaun Watson or Deshaun Jackson style ball. So
yeah, it's true. I think with Quez, because of his speed that he has, Jalen Hurts can extend the play so well when he needs to, that he can be that scrambly guy that just finds a way to get open, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, against the Bucks are like, they're gonna shut you down and run in the game.
Mm-hmm.
If Sirianni and the Eagles do the right thing on a Thursday night primetime game, they should be throwing the ball. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that Quez gets, some more targets going forward, and he should catch a couple balls, probably a couple deeper ones.
Yeah, that's what Quez is good at for sure. Last one, when it comes down to waiver wires that are a must-own this week, we're thinking David Njoku. I know we were just talking about him a minute ago with the coin flip of heads or tails because obviously they have Hooper. The play-action game is strong in Cleveland, so they're usually going to be running a 2 tight end set as it goes. So the motion of throwing off those defenses is really what's going to give Njoku that opportunity. He's usually seeing about 60% of the snap share or more in the last 3 games, and obviously with last week trending up. Targets are going to be coming his way with Landry still out on IR as well, so he's definitely going to be a startable tight end going forward. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. Right, especially with this week coming up against the Cardinals, which I think is going to be one of the best games of the week.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are going to have to dedicate stopping the run. You have Chubb and you have Hunt, who are both in the top 10 running backs in fantasy for the year already. If the Cardinals need to do the right thing and they need to focus by defending the run. If you're doing that, if Baker unleashes some play action, he likes his tight ends.
Yeah, for sure.
And Njoku showed last week that he's probably going to be that guy, right? So,
and you know what, Dave? I think talking about Baker is a great way to segue into this week's starts and sits. So, as you guys have probably learned to know, into our fantasy football coverage, we're always going to be talking about starts and sits. So we're going to compare 2 players who are projected to have very similar scores and points for fantasy in each position. We're going to tell you what we think should be in your starting lineup and who you should be sitting or putting on your bench. We don't ever think that you should be not starting your studs because we always stand by that. But Dave, tell us about this week's start for you.
So I've got 2. I'm going to do the quarterback position, and then I'll do the wide receiver position.
Right.
Starting off with Mr. Baker Mayfield.
Baker McField.
McField. Baker Mayfield. Quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. They're hosting the Arizona Cardinals this week. Baker and the boys are coming off a tough loss, 47-42 against the Chargers. A really good AFC team as well. Mm-hmm. The Chargers have some pretty good pressure. And I think that Mayfield did all right against them. If Mayfield can take his time and he can utilize the play action as we were just foreshadowing, I can actually see him upsetting the Cardinals. Actually, they're favored right now. They're favored at home. In my eyes, they're an upset.
Cleveland is a favorite?
They're a favorite at home right now.
What?
But in my eyes, I feel that's an upset, right?
Yeah.
I think he's projected 20 points. I feel 310, 320 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Bold, Cotton. Let's see how that works out for you.
So in another sense, we're starting Baker. We're going to sit Mr. Trevor Lawrence. Once again, we're picking on the Jags, eh? They're hosting the Miami. Yeah, they're hosting the Miami Dolphins. Things in Miami have been heating up, and not in a good way. No. As in, their expectations were super high to start the year off, and here we are. So I do expect a bounce back in a must-win game for the Dolphins, and they're gonna do that. And they're gonna win by forcing a rookie to make rookie mistakes. Mm-hmm. Defense is gonna be the factor here. That's gonna be the game changer. It's gonna help the Dolphins win the game, or maybe they won't if you see my picks later. I would sit Trevor Lawrence if you're able to. Both these boys are projected 20 points.
It's kind of surprising that you see Trevor Lawrence projected at 20 points.
But the reason that is, the Cardinals' defense is number 2 ranked overall right now. That's pretty hefty.
That's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. So on to wide receivers. Dave, who do you got next?
You want to start Chase Claypool against...
Yeah, you do.
The Seattle Seahawks. The Pittsburgh Steelers are at home. Juju is gone. The Seahawks, a team who I do really enjoy. They have a little spot in my heart. I do like them a lot. They don't look phenomenal. They don't look terrible. They look okay. And Russell's out. So I expect the Steelers to have possession of the ball for majority of the game as Gino Smith takes the reins. Big Ben's going to have to rely on Najee at first, I think, to get things going. But then he's going to hit his big boys like Chase when he needs to. Yeah. I expect that Chase will probably find the end zone. And he's a large target who makes big plays. And Seattle has been known to let those big plays happen to them over the top.
Well, that was actually going to be a question I legitimately just decided I wanted to ask you. What do you think about Seattle's ability to defend that deep ball? Because, I mean, Chase Claypool is the guy who goes out there and makes the big plays. He's their Tyler Lockett. So I guess what do you think about their defense on that side?
I feel like Seattle, they're so hot and cold in that sense. You have Adams in the back as a safety, and when they blitz him, he's so disruptive. But sometimes they're trying to use him like Jalen Ramsey. They want to put him all over the field and utilize his talents. Mm-hmm. I feel like they haven't figured it out yet.
He's not Jalen Ramsey.
They've paid him, but they haven't really figured out a way to utilize him. So they do seem to be getting beat, and their defense hasn't been what it used to be. And as a guy who likes the Seahawks as an NFC team, it is tough to watch sometimes to see them getting blown up like that.
Yeah.
And I really hope they can pull out a win against Pittsburgh because I really hate Pittsburgh. I do. I hate Big Ben. I think he's an idiot.
Valid.
I do have a lot of respect for Mike Tomlin, phenomenal coach, and I hate him for it. But yeah, I think that you should start Chase Claypool and you should sit Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen.
Sit him.
David.
He's playing the Baltimore Ravens in M&T Bank
Makes sense
Stadium.
for you to say.
It is not easy to go into Baltimore. Okay? And Baltimore's coming off a very emotional, huge overtime win at home against the Colts.
Big time.
They didn't win that game because of their defense, I'll tell you that. However, I expect them to do their job. They're going to cover the dinks and dunks that they're going to come to Keenan Allen. Williams will probably have a huge game because it's really hard to contain that beast of a man, and we were pretty injured. And by we, I mean the Baltimore Ravens. I don't own them, but that's how it comes out.
It's your team.
It's my team. Yeah. But I just don't see Keenan Allen getting his 13 projected points going forward. I think that it's going to be, if you've seen it, to beat the Ravens or come close to beating them, you got to run the ball. It's not the quick dink and dunks. It's not the quick possession corner routes. It is run the ball. So they need to utilize Eckler if they want to win that game. And the Chargers are a phenomenal team. So I think they're coached well too. Stanley looks like he's doing a phenomenal job as a rookie coach. And I think he shouldn't make the mistakes that he might make by throwing the ball to Keenan Allen too much.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're watching that game, you're going to be out there just screaming at Eckler.
Yeah. I like Eckler as a human being, but I hope he has a terrible, terrible football game.
You don't own any shares in him, do you?
Not this year.
No.
Which I wish I did.
This is an easy one for you to say.
He's RB2 on the year.
This is easy one for you to say, Eckler, screw off.
I hope you just have a rough game, buddy.
Fair enough. All right, I'm going to jump into mine here next. So I went in with the start and sit of running backs, and I'm calling the start for Leonard Fournette.
I like it.
Anything Buccaneers seems to be a good call these days. And with a heavily bolstered offense and a ton of places to spread the ball, Fournette has emerged as the lead back. Not just in the rushing game. He's also out there catching the ball. He's the guy for pass catching. He's only scored one touchdown so far this year, last week, but I'd say he has, an opportunity against a very mediocre Eagles defense.
Average, yeah.
Yeah, mediocre at best. Who just let a rookie of Chuba Hubbard rush for 101 yards. They've also allowed 142 yards on average against them on the rush this year. So Fournette has an opportunity to easily beat that projection of 12 points this week.
Look at you sticking to the Thursday night game.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself, Dave. So that's why I said to sit Miles Sanders. We kind of alluded to it earlier as well. I was studying this game a little bit, and I was looking between the two RBs playing and thinking, Miles Sanders has just had a maddeningly frustrating year. He's been super underwhelming, and Gainwell stole a lot of his looks. So it's not helping Sanders and his reliability. And going against a Buccaneers defense who is the top rushing defense, well, probably one of, I wouldn't say necessarily but one of the top rushing defenders in the league. Sanders is projected for 11 points, very similar to the 12 points of Leonard, and I just don't see him getting there.
I can back that up. I'm with you.
You're with me.
100%.
Dave, I appreciate you.
If you had to ask me, should you start Leonard Fournette or Miles Sanders, I'm starting Fournette.
Yeah, like a sensible human being. Next part here, I'm getting into the tight ends. So starting tight end this week, I'm saying Gesicki. Big Mike. Let's go. He's projected at 9 points this week, and it feels like it might be a bit steep to ask of old Big Mike, but I'm calling it. Gesicki's going to pop off this week. The Jags D has been brutal. We've been talking about picking on the Jags, and they're specifically bad with the tight end position. Brissett's been targeting Mike heavily for the last 4 straight weeks. Not only that, he's also averaging 11.1 yards per carry in those games. So if Pruitt and Firkser from the Titans, can put up 47 yards and a touchdown against the Jags, I'm thinking Mike's probably got a shot. What do you think?
Yeah. Give me a Big Mike. Always.
You love your shares in Big Mike. And then I actually said to sit Njoku.
So pick him up.
Yeah.
So pick him up waivers.
Pick him a stash.
But not this week is not the right time to play him.
I personally don't believe so. Njoku, he's a beast of an athlete. He's huge. He's amazing. And he finally had a big breakout game after having been injured in the 2 previous seasons. I think he has a chance to excel, but like we were talking about, it's a coin flip. I mean, Hooper's still there. I don't think this is the week that he just continues off. He's not going to go off for 1 week and then just boom, he's flying. I do have the idea that, like we were saying with Baker, is they're going to be running 2 tight end sets. So having both Njoku and Hooper on the field, somebody's going to get covered, and who's the guy who just blew up on the last game? Njoku. At the same time, I think, this is probably not where he's going to repeat. He could be a good flex candidate if you're looking at bye week issues, if you're looking at injuries, or if you're literally just looking for a guy that needs to be played. I just think he's probably going to be the guy that you sit when you're looking at 8 to 9 points in a tight end flex projection.
I love it. So what we'll do next, now that we've given you some starts and some sits, is we're going to jump into our small sleepers of the week.
Ooh, Dave, tell them about the sleepers.
So sleepers are players that we think that would normally be sitting on your waiver wire that you can go and grab. And we try and throw someone at you that's projected to be less than 10 points or fewer. Someone that we think that has a really good shot to be a hot candidate for that week going forward. Especially with the bye weeks, you have New Orleans out, you have San Francisco out, you have the Falcons out, and you have the Jets out. There's 4 teams on bye, and expect this every week until week 14, because we got bye weeks till week 14 going forward. These might be guys that can fill the hole that you have going forward. So I think I'll start off with the running back.
Get her done, bud.
For the Chicago Bears, Khalil Herbert. Damien Williams cannot do it on his own against the Packers. He cannot.
It's true.
If the Bears want to win this game anyways. So don't get me wrong. I feel like a lot of Nagy's choices have kind of shown that he's steering the boat into the iceberg. Maybe he doesn't really want to win the games. But Khalil should see a couple of targets through the air. I think he's going to get a couple of goal line attempts here. The Bears are weird. They like to keep a close game with teams, whether they're good or bad. I think he's gonna get in the end zone. So I think he's going to outscore 7 projected points. Yeah,
I mean, like you were saying, with Williams being the guy that should be leading that rushing core, Herbert still had a pretty good week last week. So I think there's probably a good opportunity for him too.
I like him going forward, man. Yeah. It's rough for anyone that's a Montgomery owner. If you do own Montgomery, hopefully you got a piece of Khalil or Williams to kind of back yourself up there. But
for sure,
in the tight end position, one of the weirdest names in football, Mo Alley Cox. They are hosting the Texans. Wentz has learned to love this freak of a man. Like his targets to start the year off were 2 per game. That's not good.
No.
Now we're seeing 4, 5. It seems to be ramping up.
Yeah.
So maybe Wentz is finally figuring things out here. They're playing against a pretty weak team in Houston. No offense, Luke.
Yeah, well, they're at the bottom of the projections for a reason.
Yes. The Colts should dominate time of possession. They should probably put up 3 to 4 touchdowns. They're probably going to utilize some play action with JT in the backfield. I think that Mo's going to get one of those 3 to 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's projected 6 points. I'm thinking 9, 10.
Unfortunately, Dave, I feel like you're probably right. Man, it's going to really hurt to lose the Colts. I don't have a lot of respect for the Colts, to be completely honest. I hate Carson Wentz. I think he's junk. But at the same time, when you have Jonathan Taylor, like, he is far superior to anybody else on the Houston's team. Just that guy alone is pretty scary. Then you've got Pittman. Then you've got Cox. Like, man, God, I don't want to be in this position.
I do like the spread for the Texans this week, though. The Colts the Colts are like Monday night game against the Ravens. Like the Colts and the Ravens are kind of the same team in that sense. They'll never win an easy game.
No,
they'll win an easy game in a terribly difficult fashion. So I can't see
play to their competitor.
I can't see the Colts winning by 10 points against the Texans.
Is that the spread?
I think it's 9.5. Pretty certain.
Ooh, okay, I might want to get in there. Moving onward, we are going to also get into the sleepers for quarterbacks and wide receivers. I will be starting off with my quarterback sleeper of Gino Smith. So again, we've been kind of up and down and picking very similar guys throughout the fantasy podcast here, but I think Gino Smith is probably going to be the guy that could be a sleeper to help you win in the week this week. Strictly based on matchup. I mean, we obviously talked about why he should be picked up off of waivers. We think he could be a great help for you in 2 quarterback and super flex leagues. I know it's a little strange and it's definitely risky, but Smith has the ability to, compete with Russell Wilson out. They're playing the Steelers, and the Steelers defense has been kind of wishy-washy lately. Suspect. Gino is only projected at 17 points this week. That's why I'm saying he should be a sleeper, because given, the quick glimpse that we've seen in him finishing up the game against the Rams last week, and like you were saying before, he's got Lockett, he's got DK, he's got weapons in front of him, he's got Chris Carson who can run the ball and help them out. I'm thinking he's good for probably 20, 22. So, I mean, if you're looking for a guy to get you those extra couple points to win the week, I think he's a sleeper that can get you there.
I like it. I think that the weapons are huge. I think one thing you might have even missed on mentioning here too is the coaching.
True.
I mean, Pete Carroll is the most spry 7-year-old man I've ever seen in my life. He's also very intelligent.
He's in better shape than us.
That's a super understatement, which makes you realize I got to figure things out. But yeah, no, I think he has all of the pieces he needs to be successful as a backup, serviceable backup quarterback.
He did it.
So if he can't do it now, he shouldn't be playing NFL. He should not be playing in the NFL if he can't do it.
Valid. And then my wide receiver sleeper is Emmanuel Sanders. At this point, it almost feels weird to call Sanders a sleeper, but Diggs is there. Dawson Knox is now probably one of the top tight ends in the league. So when you look at that core that they have for receivers, Emmanuel Sanders excelling the way he has is literally just special. Like, that's just a sleeper candidate that you don't necessarily think you can possibly flex every week. At this point, it kind of seems like he is a must flex. So that's why I'm saying he's the sleeper for the week. Josh Allen and the Bills have been phenomenal. And even though Emmanuel Sanders is 34 years old, he's been busting out for big games. He's only averaging 3 or 4 catches a game, but his yards per carry is 18. 18 yards per carry. Catch, same shit. It's still a C, Dave. Yards per reception.
There we go.
I'll go with that one.
18
it's not a C, I guess.
18 is a large number.
18 is a large number. He's also had two touchdown games. So he's definitely a boomer bust candidate, I would say, which is kind of why, to me, he makes it as a big sleeper. Against the Titans this week, Sanders has the big matchup. You take him.
And Sanders is projected to have 11 points.
Indeed.
Okay.
So, I mean, 11 points when he's been getting 10, 18, 9, 14. He's a guy who's kind of wavering around that 11-point mark. I think against the Titans, he's got the opportunity to blow that out.
I like it.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Well, again, as we discussed with our friends out here in internet land, we are going to segregate this topic of the future spreads like we would normally go through into its own separate entity, into its own video. So before we sign off, again, thank you guys for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to all of our content. If you liked the special episode that we did with just fantasy content alone, please let us know. We'd be happy to continue to put out the videos that you guys are looking for in the way that you guys like them. You can look up our YouTube, audio for Podbean, for Spotify, for Apple, when you want to find this content out there, and all of our other content with the Hollow Hunters, Pokemon Pulls, our small media gaming. Dave, any final words for the people out there?
Just that we appreciate the support. We hope you guys are most importantly enjoying the show. Like if you do like it. And I'd love to be able to have some conversations in regards to what we're chatting about. So send us a comment. I guarantee you we'll respond to your comments and we'll keep things going fresh that way too.
Indeed.
So thanks again,
everybody. We're signing off.